I'm going to do a proper look at the passenger platforms later, however. What I wanted to do was there's some really simple stuff I could just say right now. That so I won't be able to answer all your questions because there's a couple of bits that I don't know at the moment. I need to clarify how you do it. But I can answer a couple of very simple questions, give you a couple of simple tricks. Let me bring up the route that I was working on earlier on. Don't get excited, it's a test route. Right, so let me turn the other camera off and switch it to... Is it that one? Yeah. So this is just a first look at the... like I said, this is not going to answer all the questions, because as I was doing it, I was coming up with other questions. So one of the things that was asked of me is, how do you do the endings? Cheers, Serge UK. How do you do the endings on the platform so that they come down on the end? There's two things. So it depends on the asset that you're using. So if I lay a bit of track, make sure also you reselect the track that you want, so that you only ever... I keep saying this, I just want to keep underlining it. When you're laying track, always lay it from this, not this. This one is the one you want to lay it from, because this is the track that's set to a track rule. Is that a track rule? I don't know, I can't remember what the wording is. Otherwise what happens is the junctions don't render correctly all the time. And you get all sorts of strange things happening. Right, Jack, yes, we can do your scenario after this. Right, so having laid a bit of track, I am now going to... what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put a coach down. So what I've been doing lately is I've been sticking a couple of coaches down here to help me get the positioning of the platform correct. Right, now we're back in the route editor mode again. If I block mark where I want the platform to be, and then I click the offset tool, I'm going to set the offset tool to 4. Why? Because I've been playing around and 4 seems to give me a good number. You play around and you figure out what works for you. I have used the Brighton mainline stations, and this is these are the assets you get. These are the assets you get from the Train Sim Academy. So you use different routes and you'll get different stations, so just find the ones that work for what you're doing, and then having clicked on this is standard offset tool stuff, you click it, and then when you click it, it will draw the platform in along the track, and if you've got curvy track, it will follow the track. So as an example, here's one I did earlier, and that's just done using the offset tool. So that I know that with this particular asset, 4 is about the right width away, but you can always get it and move it around if you want to. What I now need to do is come off of here, and I need to lift it up, because it's way too low at the moment. So we lift it up. It's actually slightly too high now. There you go. Right, so that now puts us in roughly the right place. So the question was, how do you then make the ends go down? So what you do there is, for this particular asset, because you'll notice this asset does not have endings on it. There are other assets that do have endings on them. So what you need to do for this particular type of asset, and a lot of the loft platforms are like this, so what you need to do is just go ahead and lay the same type of platform again. So if we lay a very short section to about there, and then we go up the other end and we do the same thing, just another short section to about there. Right, now what we need to do is use the height tool. So this is the gradient tool you would use if you were messing with the track, but you could, because lofts and track are basically the same thing, you can get away with bending the platform down, and then you can do the same thing over here. That didn't work. Okay, so I clicked the wrong thing. Right, let me try that one more time. So there is a reason why you don't just place the height tool, place an arrow, plop them out. I'll explain that in a minute. So offset tool. We want to do 4. That. Put that there. Right. It's got our art back. Click that. Better, that's in there. Right, let's do this one more time. Click that, extend it. So there's a reason you don't just see. You could just go into the gradient tool and drop another line in. There's a good reason why you don't do that. I'll explain that in a minute. If you do that, you'll run into problems and the platforms won't always work properly. If I pick this and extend it out, and then pick this and extend it out, and then if I get the gradient tool and drop that down, and the gradient tool and drop that down. Right, now what I need to do is cut the platform. So using this split tool, I now need to cut that, and then I need to cut this. Why am I needing to do that? Because this is something you need to understand about when you're placing platforms. If you lay a platform, then the passengers will only walk at the if you were to just push that down and push that end down, essentially the passengers walk from the end of here to the other end of here, and so what happens is all you see is these heads walking through the platform. Yeah. So if you so essentially what you need to do is to cut it so that this is your platform. This actually isn't your platform. You can have it like that, and people will walk up and down it. But if you have it like that, they will walk essentially across the top, and they'll appear to float between the two. And similarly, if your platform looks like that, they'll appear to get buried in the middle of it, because they're walking from end to end. They're not walking across, they're not following the path in the middle. They're only ever walking on a straight line between the two ends. Coplopper, it's not actually the lowest part of the platform. So let me give you an example of... so if I lay a platform here, and then if I lay another platform here, and if I now lift, let's say for example the track went up here, yeah, because there's a gradient change there. That's kind of an extreme version. What's going to happen here is the passengers will start here, float all the way up to there, yeah, because it's a straight line from this end to that end, and they'll float in the middle. So if you imagine a straight line here, they're going to float all the way into across, and then they'll be back on the ground again by the time they get to the end. The other situation you can have is, if I do the same thing again, is if you then were to let's say have this lifted up in the middle. What happens is it walks again from the end here to that end over there, which means it looks like it's burying itself in the middle there. So that's basically, when you're laying a platform, the platform has to be flat. They have to be flat. If you don't lay it flat, then the passengers will walk through buried in it and all the rest of it. They don't. It doesn't work. Someone's just asked if you can taper the end. No, you have to. That would have to be part of the asset. There's no way of doing that automatically. Now, the other thing you will need to do is, with this, passengers can still spawn on it. If you double click, you've got this section over here, which means you can control how many passengers spawn at different times of day. So if I get rid of everything except one, get there in the end, and then set that to 0. Passengers will no longer spawn on this section, and then do the same thing over here. Over here. That means that passengers will no longer spawn on our end bits. And then over here, you could. This is where if you want to adjust. So at the moment, you can see like 2%, 5%, 10%. You can say that, for example, actually at 4 o'clock we're getting really busy, and we'll have 20%. Is the value of sort of this is so how many people of you're going to get actually into the onto the platform. You can't select more than one checkbox unless you can do it with Control. No, Shift, no, nope. If you can select more than one, I have no idea how. Right, just looking at the chat. So another thing that, since we're here, is if you've got a scenic asset on the platform. So let's stick. Let's just stick a sign in the middle of the platform, shall we? Stick Earlswood sign here, and we'll move that up a little bit. Right. What we don't want is passengers walking through that sign. So what we can do is, if we go back to the platform, we can do this generate thing. So this is the number of points, and you'll see immediately what I mean when I do it. When you click generate, it creates all these blue things around the platform, and it forms like a blue, a sort of a pink line around there. That is the bounding box that passengers can walk in. So what I can now do is I can get hold of this, and I can move the bounding box so that it excludes the area that I don't want the passenger to walk in. If I move that there. Oops, let's move him back there. Move him here. You don't have to be exactly where. You can sort of move them around. And if you will find you want more, you can always type the number in and do generate again to get more of these points. There you go. So now we've got it so that it's excluded that area. So that's the that means that you can control where passengers can walk around. Right, now if we want to make it so where you can actually open the doors and make it an actual platform, what we need is a marker. We need to actually tell it it's a platform using marker platform. So let's add the marker. Put the green marker down. Remember, you can double click on the marker to change it to Mattown platform 1. I'll change both of them just for the sake of completeness. One is the internal ID, one is the display name. I usually just make sure they're set to the same thing. If I now go and get a steamy train so that we've got something we can drive. Matt's crib. And if I now go into, not that one, into this one. Put the train down, and the loco, flip it round, and then back it on, and then put a driver on there. So now if I go into the game, we've got people spawning on the platform. If I press the T to open the doors, people will walk around. So that's a working platform. Yeah, that's the 6MT clan. You can't type your own station name into the station signs, unfortunately. So that's really that's as far as I'm going to go in the tutorial for this. What I wanted specifically to cover was doing the tapering, this bit lowering at the ends, and how you cut it so that you don't have a problem with the people walking in the heads coming out of the top. How do you create spawn points, things like that? That's what I'm going to do the next time, because it's at the moment that's entry and exit points. There's points of interest and things like that that I'm not entirely familiar how to do, and rather than fiddle with it while everyone's watching and not knowing what I'm doing, then I figure I'm going to have a look at that. The other thing that I want to understand is there is a way of making it to where this platform, even though it's made of two separate bits of platform, can be made to act as one platform. There's a merge thing, and I can't remember how you do that either. So that's what I'm going to. Can you buy this route, Moggy? Yeah, you can. £99.99, coming soon. There's not much more to do it. This is it. Raito Official apparently wants a discount at £50. Dear oh dear. So yeah, that's kind of what I was going to do with the platforms. So that's, if you wanted to get a platform in your route, that gives you a basic start point to get going. The only other thing I was going to actually look at was I told you that there was two ways of doing these tapers. One of them is the way I've done it there, where you manually add it into the asset. The other one is some of the assets have it already built in. So if I just add another load of another bit of track here, and I use the Academy platform, then offset tool and go for the UK platform, old 5 meter, that one. Right, you'll notice that that's already got the thing that goes down on it, so I can get hold of this asset, drag it up, and it's already got that already built into the asset. So some of the platforms you look at will already have this built in. They've got an end piece on them already, and some of them don't. This asset is bad for extending onto. I don't know whether you could extend onto it. Let's have a quick look. Oh yeah, it does. It just extends it, no problem at all. So yeah, you can have it to where it's already got the taper on them. Some of them have got those, and that's just down to whether the art was actually built correctly. So not correctly, that's not the right thing to say. Whether it was built with the end assets on, or whether it wasn't. And if they weren't, then you can add them yourself by just lowering them. Yes, it is the wrong way round. What's the point of the ramps? It's how we used to get on and come up and down the platforms that way. Before they started doing gates and things. Is there a way to people who get off the train? I don't know. You can adjust the sort of how busy platforms are by using that percentage thing that I showed you. So in here, when you double click on there, you've got all these different percentages, so you can control how busy the platform is at different times of day. So at the moment, for example, if I come back into free roam, there you go. It was in older times just to get cars on the platforms for freight trains and such. There you go. So if I come back into the editor, go back into the scenario, and look at this, it's set to 4 o'clock. Okay, I had already changed it to 4 o'clock. So that's in theory the busiest time for this platform. It doesn't seem very busy to me, but okay. The third thing that you should probably be aware of, I'm not going to do it right now because I haven't really figured out what assets I need to demonstrate it, is under platforms, there are these ones that say invis. So what they generate is a whole lot of nothing. They literally just generate the all of the bits that make it into a working platform. So if you've got a platform that you've modelled completely, let me give you an extreme example of a platform that's modelled completely, and I am not going to play and figure this one out. This is a nightmare. So Clapham Junction, yeah. So if you were going to, if you put all the tracks into here, the question then is, how do you turn this? Because it's already got all the platforms in it. Do you want to lay new No, you don't. You just place those invisible platforms on top, and then it turns a 3D platform you've made yourself, and it turns it into a platform with passengers on it that works like a normal platform does. So that's what the invisible ones are all about. It's for when you make your own platforms completely in 3D modelling. Will this come with the Black 5? No. Okay, I think that's about as far as I'm going to go for the moment. If there's anything you want me to explain in the passenger stuff for when I come back to it with for the rest of the stuff, let me know. Platforms in 3D modelling are bad. Why are they bad, Coplopper Mal? too complicated. Well, you see, what you need to do there is a trick, and I will try and figure out how, and I'll do a tutorial dedicated to it, whereby you can lay all the track, you set your terrain up, then you lay your track, and then you can export the scene that you're looking at. So you could sort of say, look at that, and say, right, we've got this is about where all of Clapham Junction is. You can then export that, and it goes into a 3D model. So with all the terrain and the track, you then push that into your 3D modeling suite, and then like Blender or something, and you can then draw the platform in Blender on the track. So you're not figuring out where everything is; it's all right there. And then you delete all the platform, the track and the terrain, and then re-import your model, and it just works because you've built it directly to the track. So I'll do a tutorial on how to export into Blender, do some scenery, and then bring the scenery back into the game. Right. I think that's it. Matt will demonstrate this next week. Can you modify the in-game crossings? No. Not really. I mean, when you place a level, when you place a level crossing, you can move the individual assets once you've placed it down. But you can't actually change the assets as such. But if all you want to do is move where the gate is, yes, you can pick once you've placed it, you can then move the gate, move things around a little bit. 3ds Max is easy to use. It certainly is Xshoot, however, it's also extremely expensive, whereas Blender is extremely not expensive. And yeah, actually, Amarylline, you're quite right. I mean, I must admit, it's from what little dabbling I played with Max, I didn't find it any easier than Blender. Right, okay, that's enough for that one, I think. So, let me